So that is what I thought. I mean, it was not about data or any particular stream. It was always whatever you watch around yourself in the actual real world.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I just started my engineering journey. So architecture in engineering meant a lot of things, right?
That's true.
Technical, a lot of things. So yeah, so that's always fascinated me. I have always aspired that I'll architect something, I'll design something which I'll start from scratch. So that has been a big motivator for me. And I love that tag. I love that profile. So I'm not designing hotels and uh, you know, physical structures, but yeah, I think I'm contributing. I think I'm doing what I love.
It's
So
bigger than that, I guess, Sri, So I
yeah,
think so designing and defining something that you can't really see, I think that takes a lot as well. It takes a lot more, I guess. So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Shri, in your journey so far, right? So, how have you seen, in the past decade, the evolution of data and the focus of organization around the data functions? You know, at companies at enterprise level companies, like banks or maybe some money management funds, etc.
I think so. Past 15 years, maybe if I just talk about even before I started, right? So I mean, uh, people were not that into data. I mean, those people who were always ahead of the curve. But in general, I think the craze about data you see right now was not present, right? When I
Hmm.
started off my career, I think people were very. I mean, I'm not talking about uh, niche companies or people who were studying in IITs, IIMs, etc. Speaking in general. Uh, People were fascinated by new techs back in those days, which was like data processing, data manipulation, etc. Right, and that was fancy for them. Although
Correct.
in a global term, that journey had already started 10 years before, right? In the Googles or in outside India or maybe in the service industry, they had already started the journey. So when I joined, I think the niche technology was data warehousing, right? Um, COBOL, etc., were outdated. Mainframe
Correct. Correct.
was being phased out. Nobody knew how long mainframe is going to last. Uh, so a lot of things were happening. Java, for example, was always a evolving technology. So I'm saying when I got recruited back then and I joined my first batch, and you can imagine, right? There
Hmm.
were people who got recruited in campus drives, etc. They had this craze of what technology will I get into, and like I said, it was just mere coincidence that I fell into data. I was hoping
I
for
think
something else.
a good coincidence, I guess. Something.
Of course, worked out well for me, and
Yeah.
probably a lot of people. So yeah, I never envisaged that I'll get into data, but I did, and I had very least of idea that data is going to become what data has become right now. That is where it started. I think I remember getting into Informatica as my first
Okay.
technology, right? So that
Right.
is where my entire data processing, data journey began. I'd never heard of Informatica back then. I came from Odisha, Vijayapatnam University, where we were still talking about control systems and all the. I come from an electrical background, so yeah,
Okay.
very few exposure to IT. But yeah, we had like any other engineering curriculum. We had basic subjects around programming, C, C++, etc. So yeah, started off with ETL, and that is where I learned about data processing. Looked
Mm-hmm.
mundane in the beginning, just process few data and what is the purpose? What are we doing here? You think about that.
Correct.
But
Right. Just bringing out, more intelligence from the data you have in hand, right?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that's all it's about. End of the day, be it science, be it analytics. End of the day, you are just bringing out, more and more insights, intelligence, and
right.
so I have also seen a very, common trend these days happening in the industry. So anyone or almost every founder that I talk to you, doesn't matter if they are doing anything in deep tech, doesn't matter they are doing anything in machine learning, data, big data, or data science, etc. But they always aspire to do something, and they don't know what, but they want to do something, in data, because that's what everyone is doing, right? So that's the right thing to do. When
Yeah,
they have, let's say, 100 or 200 records, maybe 500 records, and still they just want to, do something with data. What they don't know. So, what are your 2 cents for these guys? How should they go about it? How should they go about, building a strategy around data, let's say over 2 3 years, so they can capitalize on it a little later, or they can build an IP on it little later once they have that amount of data, or they should not worry about it right now. What are your thoughts on this?
no, no, absolutely. I mean, it's not about worrying; it's about thinking ahead, right? And all leaders,
Mm.
all founders have that intrinsic value, right? They want to do
Yeah,
something. They think ahead of the curve, like I said. So yeah, I think what you are saying is monetizing that data, right? Basically, creating
yeah,
something,
absolutely. That's what.
right?
You call it impact, you call it whatever, but end of the day, you are monetizing it. So,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, see, nowadays people are, I think, hyper personalization is an excellent use case, right? And what Netflix and Amazon's of the
correct.
world are doing, I think that is where everybody wants to go, right? I think that is the, I mean, best utilization of the data so far I have seen, right? If I open
Mm-hmm.
up a page, if I open up my Netflix, if I open up something, it is completely personalized around the searches, around what I've been looking for, etc. Sometimes creepy, but works
Mm-hmm.
out 90% of the time, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it is. I mean, I'm looking for
No,
some
absolutely, absolutely, it
thinking
is.
about something, and then it just pops up. You want this, you buy this. There's a lot of discount around it, and I'm saying, yeah, how did this guy
Yeah,
know? And of course, the answer is pretty straightforward. It's
correct.
basically drilling data for each individual, right? It's no more about a group thing. It's no more about a cohort thing. It's not like certain sets of people are looking for this. It's not like that anymore. It's about what exactly Srikant is looking for, what exactly Sukant is looking
Exactly
for.
right.
The
So knowing
recommendation.
more about Srikant than Srikant knows about him, right? So that's it's all about.
Yeah. I think that's especially in terms in financial sector, in our sector, in mutual fund, insurance, it works out. It's a great way to work it out. I mean, of course, there are regulations around it, so that
Hmm.
limits to some extent. We cannot just get into your personal data and start doing what
Correct.
other FMCG, etc., e-commerce websites are doing. So yeah, but I think everybody is regulated gradually. Everything will be regulated. Your personal data. I think there has been a lot of discussions, around it.
Hmm.
I think Facebook, Google, everybody has gone through, and UK has new regulations around personal data, right? So uh, that's a good thing about financial industry. It's not like it's not a reactive mode when it comes to regulation. SEBI is well aware of how critical data is and how can it can be utilized or misutilized, right? So we are gradually moving towards it from a financial perspective. We are trying to hyper personalize recommendation. I think few of the players are already doing it. Grow. Grow and Zerodha. I think they are already doing that. Uh,
Correct. So I
yeah,
think even with Grow, Zerodha, what these guys are doing in terms of personalization is because I think it's very much, very quantified way, how people buy insurance or how people buy any financial products in a very quantified way, looking at historical records, looking at, the performance, looking at the current market situation. And you really never know, there could be India lost the match and the stock market goes down. You really don't know, what's really going on, what's the sentiment of public looks like, right?
I think the
So
recent one
how
is
do you
the
how do you control that?
I think the recent one is the Hamas Israel war, right? Palestine Israel.
Right. That was huge. Correct.
Uh, See, I think if you see the gold price from 7th October to 22nd October, that has changed
Mhm.
by almost 5,000, right? We could bought something
Right.
15 days before, you could just make a profit in no time. I think that happened a lot uh, during the pandemic period, right? People have benefited from that.
Correct.
People
Correct.
were smart enough to
Right.
invest when the market was bullish, so, sorry, bearish, right? So yeah, I think. Sorry, you were saying something. I cut you off.
No. I was just so yeah. My question was, like when so see typically what I understand the way data works is that the way data science AI works is when you have some quantified set of data. You have some quantified set of variables using which you can build some intelligence or analytics. But when you don't have quantified set of variables, right? Let's say you have 50 quantified variables and 50 variables, which is very dynamic. You really don't know. You can't really predict those variables. Then how do you build a predictive models or how do you build a intelligence system in this kind of situation? So what we are talking about in context with what Axis Mutual Fund or Zerodha or the likes of Grow are doing, right? Because the variables here are not just the quantified variables of performance, person's income, etc., but also very dynamic market conditions as well.
Yeah, yeah, true. Absolutely agree with you. I think every entity who is walking in that direction is facing that problem, and
Hmm.
it's not a off the book answer which I can give. I think in our journey we have faced that. I think people who are exploring our data, I mean the EDA process, when we are going through the EDA process, we have identified uh, factors which we really never thought existed, right? I think a lot of demographics of customers and stuff like that was not available at all. When a
Correct.
factor which we would have thought he would have contributed, but once we started digging in and seeing the pattern, and that was very helpful in understanding our customer layout and investor layout, how we are doing,
Hmm.
comparing ourselves continuously with our competitors. That has helped us a lot actually, and like I said, we are moving in that direction of hyper personalizing our products, and in our scenario, risk is a major factor, right? Risk is a
Correct.
key
Absolutely.
constraint in terms of choosing what type of products would investor opt for, and so that has been, if you see access campaigns around you in LinkedIn, etc. A new MD has been doing this campaign about risk,
Hmm.
risk. Yeah, that's a great thing actually, and all of our analytics so far has been around that. We have started. We didn't. I mean, risk was always a key factor in deciding your mutual fund products. But then investors were very extremely less aware of that particular factor. So
Right.
yeah. So to answer your question is primarily, as you keep delving into your data, your investor, customer, or whatever area you choose, you keep identifying various parameters which will actually help you, evolve that
Right.
within. Yeah, yeah,
Got it. Got it. So I'll just go back, remember I mentioned about how founders and entrepreneurs who have just started their journey are always looking out on opportunities on what can they do with data and what can they leverage that. So a very common question that I have seen so many times: what's the right time? Like what scale or what kind of data you need to have in hand where you should start investing in the data function.
uh, Again, different scenarios have different answers. I've been part of enterprises. I've been mostly enterprises, and I've worked with, when I was in service industry, I've worked with different players in different industries apart from financials also. Uh, I
Hmm.
think some have invested right from the very beginning, even if before they have started churning data, they have invested in how to process the data, right?
Right.
So that is the work of a visionary, right? Who thinks, who envisages ki, I will be able to benefit from this particular area. uh, and then there are people who have actually created a lot of data and eventually realized ki, and I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about enterprises. uh,
Right.
so they have generated so much data that they were forced to start manipulating or processing their data. It just didn't make sense, right? And capturing so many data points and not using it,
Correct.
basically an
Correct.
asset
Correct.
which you are not able to utilize, right? So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
foolish. It's foolish, then if you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
doing anything with it.
yeah. So it's basically a mindset on when you're ready. It's like it's like getting into a relationship. You just never know
So just
where it hits you.
yeah. So just think of it this way, See, when we talk about startups or early stage startups, they mostly have a very limited budget or a very limited runway. Let's say someone has raised 5 crores or 10 crores, right? And their primary product is not focused on data. Their
Mm.
primary product is, let's say, a simple ERP solution or an e-commerce or a health tech, whatever it could be. Basically, the solution is around digitization of the manual process. That's what their product is. But do you think investing on data in such a product in a very early stage makes sense, or what do you think? Or they should wait for some time and have some product market fit for their original product, and then they go about and invest in other functions?
That's a very good question. If somebody has a product which is not data oriented, right? Investing
Yeah,
in data processing is it's not the right way to choose, right? If you have a limited budget, if you have a limited sets of users, if you have just launched
yeah,
yourself, I think investing in data is not going to make sense to you. But yeah, there are certain options, areas you can explore which don't need a lot of investment, right? I think there are certain
hmm,
applications, certain areas, there are things you can do. I think, but yeah, I think in some form or the other, you'll have to invest. If not money, you'll have to invest time. If not time, you'll have to invest money, no matter how little it may be. But yes, you
right,
will have to invest to understand what is happening with your product, with your target area, right? Target customers. You'll have to understand the dynamics of your entire journey, right?
correct.
Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the basic thing which you'll be doing is your top line, right? That's just data.
Right. So the idea is to have that vision, to have that clarity of what what it will potentially look like, and then working towards it rather than, working on it right
Hmm.
away.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Agreed.
Right. So also one more thing, Shreep. So, let's say, I'm not thinking about anything around data right now, right? So that is my least concern. And
Hmm.
some founders are also have that mindset, we're not talking about enterprises right now, we're just talking about the founders who are at an early stage. They are just like, let's build something, go out in the market, experiment and see how thing goes, right?
Hmm.
So in that case, although not investing on data makes sense probably at that point of time, but what do you think uh, from the engineering perspective, when you are writing the code, when you are building the application, the database architecture, not the data architecture, per se, but the database architecture, the schemas and the collections and all that stuff, right? What do you think, like what are the five mistakes or n number of mistakes that these engineers at an early stage company should not make when designing such systems?
Okay. I think I would talk from experience actually.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely. I think.
so I think the one mistake you would want to avoid when you are planning your entire data journey
Hmm.
is, just uh, bad architecture. That's the primary area you should try to control. Right? It's very
Hmm.
important that you design it well. I think a lot of people just jump in and start doing stuff around data. Okay, we need to do something about data. I have so many terabytes of data just sitting there, petabytes of data and just generating, and we are not doing anything about it. Let's just start doing, and people just jump in and choose some product and they start processing. Uh, Although there's a lot of planning behind that as well, but
Yeah, yeah,
I think it is not directed well, right? If it's like that, right? If the effort is not directed in a particular direction, it's just wastage in some way or the fun. Later part of the year, I have seen enterprise remodel their entire data architecture after 2 3 years, which is too early to redesign itself. Ideally, your tech stack should be around for at least 6 7 years or more than that, and then you should, when you have grown exponentially in terms of data, then you should think about re-architecting or re-engineering.
correct.
But people have done even before that. Why? Because uh,
Yeah,
married the requirement with the data available. I think that's pretty much bad
that's a
design.
forced marriage, right? So it's not
Yeah,
something that is natural. So
yeah, yeah. It's not arranged. It's not love. It's just, it's just, he
exactly
just
right.
went on and did it. I think that's a very apt
So what
example.
is the biggest blunder you have seen in your career or in your experience so far around these data architectures?
I think I have seen, like you said, I think incompatible tech stack is what is the biggest disaster you make. Right?
Hmm.
If you choose a product for a certain area and then a completely different product for different purpose, and then you try to gel them up without understanding if there is a integration possible, or if the integration is uh, saturated or not. Like, see, there are a lot of application would say, okay, we can work with this, we can work with that, we have drivers for that, etc. That's fine, but is it mature enough to give you a optimum performance? That is the critical question.
Right.
You will have to
And
check the history key if this application works with that application seamlessly in the past 4 to 5 years, or at least some period of
correct.
time. At least you should have a developer base out there. Yeah, that's very critical. Otherwise, it doesn't gel at all, and just because you wanted to save some dollars, a few dollars, and then you eventually paying up way more than that just to ensure that you get the optimum performance.
Right. Right. So what happens at a startups? Everything is P0, right? So if they want everything as early as yesterday. So that's how things are. And typically, people don't even invest time, energy in doing a POC. They just go right away, bang on the solution. So I think that is also one of the biggest mistake, without doing experimentation, without doing POC and jumping to the solution. And when you have invested couple of months, that's when you understand that this is not going to work, right?
Hmm.
And that
True.
rather than saving a lot of time, you end up wasting a lot of time, opportunity cost, as well as obviously money is always there on the table, which you end up losing.
Yeah.
So
I think it circles around that architecture, right?
right,
It
correct,
circles
correct.
around that. If you don't do it well enough, and then you keep doing the same stuff again and again, and you keep wasting your time,
Hmm.
resources, money, etc., everything.
I think people are also not able to communicate to their, management or to their CEOs. Let's say a young CTO, someone is doing something, they're not able to communicate properly the importance, impact of what they are doing, and they just bend down to the pressure and just do something,
I think
just to be in the optics.
you hit a nerve there. I think I have seen that happening way more than the projects I've done. Right. I think decisions being just pushed down, and of course, there might be reasonable. Those might be reasonable, decisions from a very top view, but it might not
It's still
get
superficial, no? They
found.
don't have a deep dive understanding of what could be beneath, So
Yeah,
whatever decision is coming from top down, that
yeah,
is always very superficial from what looks good, from that level,
sure.
bird's eye view. That just gives you a bird's eye view. Really don't know how shitty things are, when you deep dive. So
Yeah, true, true. I think nobody takes the time to look under the hood. It's all about how
right,
glossy the vehicle looks from the outside, and nobody gives a damn about if it's a V8 or it's a two-stroke, it's a four-stroke. Nobody gives a
exactly, correct,
yeah, true. I think that's the problem. And when the actual driver starts driving, he understands okay, it's a crap machine which I'm working with, and I'll probably have to
right.
work 5 times as I had envisaged, and probably I'm not getting paid enough. And then you see addition in that level.
And then your manager has promised something to the management, to the board,
Yeah,
and you have to do something about it. You have to just deliver.
yeah, yeah. And then manager is just not smart enough to understand you. Okay, this is not built for that. And yeah, story
For
of our
manager,
life.
it's his reputation and job is at stake. So even if he knows and understand, he doesn't want to understand. That's the more I say, apt description for that.
Very true. Yeah, but yeah, I think apart from that, in spite of all these factors, I've seen people doing a lot of things. I think a lot of positive things have happened. I have seen people, in spite of these challenges, have overcome this, have been able to find a solution. I think somebody
Right.
else's problem is, your problem is basically my opportunity. It's how it is.
Hmm.
So that's how it has worked for me so far. uh, I have come across so many problems in data, and I've took it head on, knowing that I have a very less percentage of success in spite of that. But things have worked out so far. I think let's hope.
You have been doing it smartly then, because see, as an architect, your job is not just to build a solution or build an architecture. Your job is also to, bring everyone with different opinions on table and then convince him to come on a common ground and then drive this entire effort in that direction. I think that's the bigger stuff that an architect needs to do, not just doing it, but also to convince people that this is the right thing to do. And a lot of people are not able to do that.
Yeah, I think even a founder or a CTO also has the same thing to do at a very
Yes,
large.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Correct, correct.
so that is something very inspiring also. Yeah, I've seen
Hmm.
people do that very well. I think we know Vamsi keeps doing that day in day out. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
End of the day, you have to think like an engineer, right? That's where
yeah, yeah. You have to do with what you
don't
have to.
get too personal with what you are doing or what you are planning to do, and things will fall in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to be very persistent about what you plan
Correct,
to do.
correct.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's great talking to you, Sukant.
Yeah.
So
So, Shri, one more thing. So, LLM has been making waves for last 1 year now, right? Almost a year since it was. I think it was last November,
mm,
October, November, something around same time.
mm.
So, how do you think? What's the impact, or what are you guys? How do you think traditional companies or enterprises like banks or conglomerates, etc., can uh, use or can leverage LLM to their benefit?
Okay, so like you said, we have just it's talk of the town now about LLMs and etc. With Chat GPT, it's launching and launching the third version, etc. So we have just been exploring what are the large use cases around it. We have been doing a lot of conversations with a lot of people. I think we have been having conversations with you guys as well. So we have been migrating to
Mm-hmm.
AWS right now, right? We have just migrated,
Right.
and with that, we have understood that we can do a lot more with our data, right? And
Mm-hmm.
LLM has been the talk of the town right now. Our investment managers are speaking about use cases on how they can get recommendations, how they can use LLMs. Our business users are way more advanced than us, and they are very aware of
Absolutely right.
what the recent developments are and how they can augment their business. So we are just exploring on how what we can do about it. I think one of the use cases we have seen so far that getting information out of a large data set, right, being spread across many PDFs, many files, which should be readily available with our relationship managers, while
Right.
conversation with investors, etc. It's very difficult to pull out that information, right? Because you will have to specifically know where it is, what it is, and what you are looking for. I think using NLP and LLM to pull out that data is something we have been thinking about, we have been delving about. So yeah, I think everybody is having some type of scenario where they can use these LLMs to their benefit. And like I said, it's all about monetizing the artifact, right? Whether it is data or any other technology.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
We are
Correct.
working
Right.
towards in terms of in our entity. I think other entities are also working towards different aspects. I think a lot of AMCs are also working around it. I think SEBI is also working around it on what type of regulation there should be. So yeah, I think everybody is going towards the same direction.
Right. I think the biggest use case for LLMs, primarily in the AMC or in the banking industry, should could be around the customer support or the customer, the help desk, etc. Right? Or maybe the chatbots and stuff around those lines. Because I think that has been a huge pain. If we look from the consumer point of view, talking to a bank or talking to any financial institution is really a nightmare right now with most of them, right? So if you have to reach out to them for any support issues or a support, for any with any problem or any issues these guys are facing, you have to be ready for a nightmare. It's going to take you at least an hour of a call on the customer support, or going to the banks is again, if we talk about the kind of SBIs, etc., they have a uh, I would say, they're very famous for their reputation around customer service. So I think
Yeah,
that's a amazing use case, that can help elevate the overall consumer experience.
of course. I think that's a very good point. I think customer service is always one area which can be improved in spite of it being,
Right.
on the very verge of the best services provided. I mean, that's a perception we have
Hmm.
on the other side of the fence. But yeah, I think there are a lot of platforms where we try to cater to customers. There are nowadays people take it to Twitter, I think X. Uh, People interact with WhatsApp. There are a lot of platforms they raise it out, and I think a lot of reviews do matter. I think your overall app rating, website rating do matter, and
Correct.
I have seen a lot of entities being very prompt in their responses. Of course, in spite of that, your response can always improve in terms of customers. We always have been reactive in nature. I think LLMs, NLP, etc., can help us being proactive. We can
And
probably,
being more unbiased as
yeah,
well. So,
actually, see, one use case, I think I just out of this conversation, I thought, instead of being reactive to customers' experience, bad experience per se,
mhm.
you should use AI to predict when the customer is going to have a bad
When
experience.
that, where is that inflection point, right? When the customer will piss off, right? And then,
Yeah, I think you should know ki, okay, if I'm getting so many balance inquiries, or probably something is happening, maybe in from a mutual fund industry. I'm saying, for example, you are hitting a lot of redemptions in particular scheme,
Mhm.
right? That is when you predict ki, okay, these customers might face problem in redeeming their money, and you start a proactive measure to recommend them ki, okay, we see that uh, people in your schemes are trying to redeem. You can propose either you can pitch for a reinvestment, or you can pitch for a smoother process to redeem something to enhance the customer experience, although it
Correct,
may not
correct.
always be in your favor as a mutual fund. I think I should pitch this to my digital team. Yeah. Or maybe you should do something around it. That's a very good usage. It's not just about
Right,
pension, right? It's about purchase as well. So it's about investment also. If you see that key, there's a fall in your index, overall index, right? Whether it is any type of index, so you can always see that there will be investors who will be immediately investing, right? And that's when you should recommend. People always face issues. I have seen day in day out people complaining about trying to invest but not able to do that, and we have a reaction time of days, or probably hours, or or whatever it might be. But sometimes we lose that investor. That is where you should
right.
use for AI or LLMs, etc., to recommend how you can what do you well, de-escalate that, right? How you can de-escalate that situation, how you can reach out to your customer even before he is pissed off. He's like, okay, I'm done with this investment, probably I'll look for some other application, some other fund house. You should just go reach out to him, okay, probably you are trying to invest, and you might face this situation, so we are reaching out to you with an alternate option to invest. That customer will be more than happy to do that, right? They'll say
Correct,
ki,
correct,
might
correct.
sound creepy. Like I said, I've been
No,
thinking
so
of
basically, you have to identify, what's the right point where you need to have that trigger, right? For
it.
example, let's take instance of Policy Bazaar. The moment you open the app, you start getting calls from these guys, right? And
Yeah,
I'm literally scared of opening Policy Bazaar.
yeah. Yeah, I can relate to
So
that.
more like, yeah, I'll find it from somewhere else, but not Policy Bazaar. I'll start getting hundred of spam calls. I'll look for one product and I'll get call for hundred of their products for everything. And for the next 10-15 days, you have to individually mention this that you're not looking for something and remove your name from the list. Only then it stops. So otherwise, it's a night. It's not even a nightmare. It's really scary. So you would not even want to build that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Or you also need to identify for what kind of customer that kind of triggers or what that kind of experience will work. Or customers like you and me, this is a huge turn off.
Yeah, I think the next level of data processing is capturing the emotion of customers through your cameras, and
Yeah.
probably use AI to understand whether this customer is receptive to your calls or not. That's, I think that's the next level of marketing, or digital media
Hmm.
should be doing. I think
Right. And the
yeah.
funny thing is, there were a couple of times when I was looking for something and I actually wanted to talk to someone, and there was no way to call these guys and connect with them, to clarify my dots. So when you actually need these guys, or when you actually need to talk to someone, you don't have these guys, available. But when you literally not looking for it, then you're getting spam calls. So it's a
So
funny and a very,
primarily it's not customer. What do you say? Customer centric, right? That's the experience. What it is, right?
right.
Customer
It's it's
centric. It's
it's
basically
very
not
mechanical.
entity
It's
centric.
very mechanical, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So primarily, if you go into any website and you keep getting calls for the next 15-20 days, means ki they're trying to get you on board, right? It's basically their
Hmm.
advantage. But while you are facing a problem, or probably trying to do a claim after an accident, you are being asked to wait for a few hours. So it's not customer centric. It's basically they know they're losing money, and that's why they're making this
It's
process.
business centric, so
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
other way around, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
true.
just a spray and pray, just
I think
keep
I
doing
think
it,
that
and
is
probably someone will
that is
convert.
the exact problem area which we should be solving. I think anybody who is
Exactly.
data driven, any founders, anybody who's looking at this conversation should take note from this and try to address that problem. I think you will do a
Hmm.
superb
I
job at
know.
that problem.
There's a huge opportunity for this, if someone is able to crack that. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If somebody can turn it around and get a response immediately when customer is looking for it, and probably slow it down when people are trying to pitch for it, I think that's a product which is going to sell faster than cakes.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, I think that's a good point, Sukha. I every digital team should be aware of this experience. They should be probably
Absolutely,
are.
absolutely. Yeah, they have to be, na. Matlab, I think that's a very core, and that's
Mhm.
what drives the overall experience. So you have to be on top of it. I think eventually, but yeah, hopefully someone will come around and build a solution
I think
around it.
there are people who are actually, customer centric and try to address that problem. I think not a lot of players. Maybe the moment you become an enterprise, the moment you grow big, you start
Mm,
to lose focus. Sometimes a founder has an idea, and the entire system is built around that idea. But once at certain point of time, it loses that touch, right? The founder loses that touch, or maybe he moves on,
yes, yes, yes.
age takes comes into play, etc. And it happens with a lot of people, a lot of conglomerates, happened in Tatas, in Birlas, it happen everywhere around the world. But yeah,
Right.
that is something I think whoever takes over, people, I think everybody, it's everybody's responsibility, within an enterprise. They should think, because at some point of time you yourself are a customer, right? So every time you
Mm-hmm.
customer, you think, how would I feel? It's the same way. It's basically humanity coming into picture, right? Business.
Unfortunately, people don't think, that way. It's just, like I said, it's mostly spray and pray.
Yeah. Yeah, true, true. Yeah.
Right. So how
Yeah.
do you think, Shri, like what does the next decade look for AI, data, machine learning, and LLMs as well? So what is the next decade according to you, for data?
See, if you look at the past 4 5 years, I think
Mm,
technologies which came in too fast. You blockchains, AI, Gen AI, everything is coming so fast. People are see. If I talk about myself, I struggle to. I'm in IT day in day out. I know how fast the technology changes, right? But still, I'm having a
right.
hard time to catch up, right? And people, by the time we catch up, I think that technology is just outdated. Probably it's
Correct,
used,
correct. By the
lost.
time you're expert in one thing,
Yeah,
something new is already there.
yeah, and you have it sometimes seems like it's a waste of your efforts to learn all those things, and then just lose it out to another tech stack. But of course, knowledge is knowledge, it's never wasted. But yeah, I
Correct.
think it's difficult to predict right now, right? With AI coming into picture, you really don't know how fast things are going to change, right? Previously, you know that every 10 years this is going to happen, every 5 years this is going to change. It had a certain pattern. Now that pattern has just it's like a exponential graph right now, right? Change has become the delta has become too short. So it's
Mm,
difficult to predict what is going to change and how it is going to change and how it is going to change the entire layout. Uh, Back in those days, creating a formula, creating a data pipeline used to take a lot of effort, and now it's just some AI tool out there which can create it for you.
exactly. It's just a matter of, couple of days max, depending on how big your data is.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, true,
So it's so
true.
difficult to predict. I think then there are in regulated entities like us, mutual funds, insurance, banking, uh, adoption of the changes is also a big factor, right? Although the tech changes, but the underlying business process, the real world process doesn't change, right? It's not moment
Mm-hmm.
you develop, you still have to send somebody to give you the vegetables or etc. That's not
Correct.
change, right? Uh, it's not going to be instantaneous, right? It's not going to be at a snap of
Oh, right. Absolutely. Bang on.
can buy the product and snap a finger, but you cannot get that delivered. So you will always have to keep in mind, the technology and the real world have to have a common paradigm, right? Now have to have a match there, and that is
True.
something which is always in play. So yeah, there are some aspects where you can predict, this is the change, but there are some aspects where you just can't predict at all, I think. And the evolution of data processing is something which you cannot predict anymore.
Right, right. No, true. Absolutely true.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That was good. I think we have still few minutes left, Sri. So before we wrap up, I have, if you can just share some pointers for the folks who want to get into, maybe the freshers who want to get into the data stream, in this data path. Again, data is very vast, right? Engineering, analytics, science. So how should they go about it? What should they pick depending on, what their skill set is looking like? And that is the first part. And the second part is, if someone is already, is an engineer somewhere, right? But they want to transition into a data engineering role or a data science or analytics role, how should they go about it?
Okay, I'll just go one by one. I think
Oh,
so. From my experience, I'll talk about what you should do to get a better exposure in terms of data, right? I think see, now a lot of data engineering is data engineers are selling like hotcakes, right? So if you are a data engineer,
yeah,
your pay bump is extremely good. But me as an interviewer, when I go into a discussion with any candidate and I ask about certain concepts about data processing, that is just missing there, and they just absolutely have no idea. I think we work on Python, we work on Spark, we know what is Spark, but what to do with
correct.
the data? I think if you ask
That is
questions, a lot
so
of
true.
questions around it, you will see that there is zero understanding. What is happening, what are the concepts, uh, how to process the data, what is the structure of the data. I think that is very valuable information, although it is outdated right now in terms of technology. That is very valuable information. I think the structure of the data, I think the questions, the um, I think theory around the structured data, I think the theory around the data,
Hmm.
how the data structure has evolved, and how unstructured data has become the key
The
terminology.
mainstream.
See, you are able to process a unstructured data right now because you are able to convert that unstructured data into structured data, isn't it?
Absolutely correct.
Otherwise,
Otherwise,
that
you
unstructured
will
data
never
is
go for it.
yeah. Otherwise, that unstructured data is not going to make sense to you. So it is relevant. I think it is very critical that you understand the entire you know
Hmm.
history of how the data processing evolved, right? I see data engineers not being aware about data warehouse. That's just creates a bad
Yeah.
impression. Maybe I'm from that period where data warehouse was a key concept. Maybe that's why I have that perception. But I think in general, when you go to a advanced tech stack, okay, if you are working on PySpark, you should understand what is a Python, what is Spark, and what is their architecture, and probably how Python evolved from which technology, etc. I think a theoretical understanding should give you a good background what
Hmm.
has happened so far. I think history is very important, no matter what field you are in. Especially from my perspective, data is very important for you to understand the history of data processing for at least the past 10 to 15 years. I think that should give you a advantage in terms of all your whatever area you try to get into. I think that is one key takeaway I have learned from all my conversations. Yeah, sorry. I think the second question was around how to transition from a
Correct. Right.
yeah. So I think that's pretty much easy right now, right? I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of people who are not from data and have moved on to data and are doing excellent job. I think I have few team members in my team itself. So that's pretty easy right now. I think you have a lot of trainings, etc. around it. I think the best
Okay.
language to learn is Python or probably Scala if you want to. But R is also a good choice. It being an open source, I think a little bit of I think programming is as critical as to, like I said, to understand the concepts, right? If you learn a programming language without being aware of the concept, that's just having a weapon which doesn't fire at all. So it's like that. So I think the key factor is that key whatever you delve into, whether it is data or any other subject matter, you should understand the concepts very well.
Got it. Great. So I hope, guys, you are taking pointers on this, how to go about it. And yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. Any closing notes, Sri, you would like to add before we wrap up?
No, I think Sukant, I think I learned more from you than I did. I think you guys did. I think that's hope that you can
You
take
are
away.
you are being a bit humble, but okay.
Yeah,
It was a
no,
great conversation. I think I really enjoyed the conversation with you today.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure, the people who are listening to it and who will be listening to it or viewing it later, they'll be also be enjoying it. They'll be having a good time as well.
Yeah, I think best of luck to everyone here, including you and your team, etc. I think there's a lot happening in the field of data. I think there's a lot of scope out there. I think people are trying and failing, and there's a lot of success stories also. I think we should learn from the Amazons and Googles of the world. We should Netflix.
Absolutely.
Netflix is doing something exceptionally well, processing huge volumes of data, petabytes of data, and even more than that, day in,
Great.
day out. I think they are completely data driven. I think you should read stories on how Netflix is using. I think they have identified not using data as a risk. They have predicted that they will lose almost 60-70% of their business if it is not data driven. I think that is
Wow.
what we're
So
looking
I
at.
think I think that's a business for them, right? Because they just hook you up. You really don't even want to move to another OTT platform. At least for me, I don't want to move to another OTT platform. Even if I have to watch something boring, I would not take the pain to
Search if it
download
is available in
something, log
Netflix
in,
or
and
not.
hope whatever is there. That's the entire universe. So
Yeah, yeah. I think they're doing a
maybe
fine
I'm too
job
lazy,
about it.
but yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that I'm answering your question. What is happening in the next 10 years? I think
Mhm.
every entity is going to be driven, data driven, like Netflix is today. I think that is what you're looking at in the next 10 years. I think you should jump on that bandwagon, even if you are,
Mhm.
whether you're a founder, whether you're a CTO, whether you're a data engineer, you should ride on that gravy train. I think that is the takeaway from this conversation. I think I would recommend that. I'm doing
Great.
it.
Thanks
You
a lot.
guys should do
I
that
think
too.
I'll be taking that note personally, for myself and for Sunday Labs as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sri,
So
thanks a lot. It was
yeah,
really nice. And thanks for taking time on a Sunday afternoon. I know, it was supposed to be a rest day and we just messed your lunch time.
that's all. Yeah, yeah. I think we'll have lunch sometime to compensate this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure, sure.
That is due.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sukant. Thanks, Aditya, for
Thanks,
arranging
Sri.
this.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate.
Yeah,
Have a
sure.
nice rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy
Thank you.
weekend.
Bye bye.